Hello and welcome to another card making video. I would like to welcome all the new subscribers. Thank you so much everybody for joining my channel. I hope you will enjoy it here. And in today's episode I will be showing how to make a fun card using the new Lawn Fawn stamp set, Let's Barbecue. The moment I saw this set, I instantly loved it. I really like Lawn Fawn style and sense of humor in their sets, and I just love their cute little images. So this time I will be making a card that you can make for your family member if you are visiting them for a barbecue, for example. So a fun summer card. So let's get started. I will also be using here a sentiment and an image from a different Lawn Fawn set, but it's optional. So I'm using my favorite things, hybrid black ink, and I'm stamping out all the images that I will be coloring later using my Pro markers. So apart from Pro markers, I just use my gray Stabilo 68 pen, but only for this spatula and a fork, because I don't have any gray Pro markers. But then later on I realized I could have used my black Pro marker and a blender that would kind of bleach out the black and it would become kind of a gray color. I'm doing very simple coloring here, so I hope you don't mind I speed it up a bit. And I'll catch you later when I'll be creating the background for all these gorgeous elements. So for my grill, I used my black Pro marker, and then I went over all the black areas using my blender pen to kind of bleach it out and give it that used look. I also went over the top of the grill and drawn some charcoal and added some orange all around it, so it looks like there's an actual flame. I thought it added kind of interest to the card. So as you can see, I went over my mushroom with my blender pen. That did absolutely nothing later, I noticed. So a little tip that I forgot to capture on the camera: you can actually do tip to tip with your markers. So if you have a black and a blender, so you can touch using your blender pen the tip of your black marker, and then you'll obtain a kind of a grayish color. And don't worry, it won't ruin your marker. Just scribble off to the side after you're done, and it will be completely clear again. And so I fussy cut all my images, and as you can see here, I stamped the tree from a Critters in the Burbs stamp set, because I will be actually using it as a mask for my clouds. So I'm cutting it out, and later on you will see how I use it to create my clouds. I actually think that this crown of the tree, if you cut it well, creates a real neat cloud on its own. So you don't actually need any die cuts. You can just be creative with your stamps and look at it from a different perspective. You might find different elements in what you already have. So I also created a red grill, but then I decided to go with the black anyway because I had quite a lot of red on my card. And I actually colored the legs of the grill using the technique I mentioned before, tip-to-tip marker coloring. So now for the background, I will be using Distress ink to blend some grass and sky. I will be using Salty Ocean for the sky and Mowed Lawn for the grass, with addition of peacock feathers to darken the green. So I'm gonna take here, as you can see, a piece of just a scratch paper, like a printing paper, and I'm gonna draw with my pencil like a little hill of how I want the grass to look like. And then I'm gonna cut it out, and I'm gonna temporarily adhere it to the card front, and that's gonna be my masked off area. And when creating your mask, remember to cut along the line in one go and keep the top part of your mask, because you'll use it later to cover up the top part of the card. So like I said before, I will be using that tree crown to create the clouds. And like with any other blending using the blending tool, try to go from inside towards the outside and stamp off your blending tool to the side to not have too much ink on your sponge. And repeat this process as much as you need to achieve the desired intensity of color for your sky. creating the grass is pretty much the same. You just blend on your color, and just remember to keep that part of masking to adhere at the top, so you don't go with green over your blue sky. And so now I decided to add a little bit of like a picnic blanket, and I'm gonna use the mask that I masked off the sky to kind of scribble where the blanket needs to end. I'll cut it out, and that's where I will be adhering all my elements later on. So for the sentiments, I usually like to use a VersaFine Black Onyx inks because it's very crisp and it gives a perfect impression. And unfortunately, as you can see, I must have had a little bit ink on my finger. Do always be very careful with this ink because it's a pigment ink, and I had a little bit of smudge of black ink there. You'll see I will actually fix that later on. And so the second sentiment is from the Treat Yourself mini stamp set by Lawn Fawn. And in the meantime, I also stamped and colored a little plate that I will add underneath the hot dog. And I will use the white Signo gel pen to cover up the ink smudge on the side there. And then I will be assembling my card. I of course had to add those cute little smileys on the ketchup, mustard, and the hot dog. And I also want to mention that I used Glossy accents as my glue for this card. And I will list all my supplies and stamp set and tools in the description below and on my blog post. I don't know if you noticed, I always have a link to my blog post in the description below, so you can check out for more pictures and more information about the current project on my blog. So as you can see, I erased some of the elements with foam dots or foam squares. Some of them are thicker, some are thinner, depends how you really want it to look. I added some foam squares underneath the grill, and I also will add a little flame above the grill and color it in with my Pro markers. And then I added also some glossy accents on top of the flame because I thought it made it look more real. I also added some glossy accents on top of the tool so it looks more like metal, and I couldn't help myself and I added some on top of the ketchup on the hot dog. Now here's the funny thing, I was watching a documentary about food recently, and they said that you should never add ketchup on top of hot dog. Well, in my opinion you can add whatever you want, but in this case it was strictly a color issue, so I had too much yellow, so I had to add ketchup to my hot dog. I also added some glossy accents to the flame because I thought it made it look more realistic. Then I stamped a trail for the butterfly up on the sky, and I adhered the butterfly using a foam square. I used double-sided tape to adhere my card front to the card base, but by all means do use any other adhesive that you have. This is just what I had on hand. And that finishes the card for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please leave a comment and press like. See you next time, and remember to check out my blog post for more info. Have a great and crafty day. Bye!